Well, again, everyone, it's me, Nick Michalak, and the awesome Steve Frazier.
Well, thank you.
Should have said the shining Steve Frazier.
Oh, well, you know,
Missed opportunity.
you did. You squandered. You fucked it up. You want to start over?
45 years I had the opportunity to get this right. I screwed it up. So, 45 years of The Shining, guys. So we have a lot of things to discuss. Maybe some diametrically opposed things.
Maybe. I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see how things go. We haven't discussed anything ahead of time.
No, I mean, I know your general opinion, but...
okay. Well, guys, if you have your own copy of Stanley Kubrick's version of The Shining, get your timestamp over to 0, turn on your subtitles to follow along, we'll get synced up with a countdown, and get going. So, in 3, 2, 1, play.
This is often regarded as one of the best horror movies ever made.
Sure.
That does not mean that we share that same opinion.
No. It's Blade Runner.
Is it?
The actual cut of Blade Runner, the ending of the film used unused footage from this part of The Shining from Stanley Kubrick.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Which Ridley Scott did not like the ending, so he chopped it out later on.
Got it. Got it.
Just get that out of the way right up front.
Where do we begin?
Well, you start off. You talk some King and everything like that.
Yeah, we're putting this in our Stephen King commentary playlist.
Yes.
This was probably Stephen King's first big hit, I think, as an author. And God, when did it come out? 75, maybe?
76, I
76?
think they said.
So, I remember being 16 years old, and I read this novel, and
77.
It blew my goddamn mind. For years and years, I said, this is the best book I've ever read.
Mm-hmm.
And this cinematography is friggin' incredible, too. Because this is before drones.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Chopper.
Like drones were piloted and, were called helicopters. So, I'd seen the movie long before I read the novel.
Okay.
And I fell in love with the novel. And I still like the movie. But now I understand why some people don't.
Including Mr. King himself.
Including Stephen King. And Stephen King's works have been adapted by
countless
100 people at this point, right?
Yeah.
Like, so many things. As far as I know, this is literally the only one that he does not approve of.
He's very much outspoken in this regard, yes.
Yes.
Probably because the film was so heavy on praise. Not at first, but it built the praise over time, and so King had more opportunities where people probably brought it up and wanted to get his reaction to everything, and the more he said, the more people wanted to court him about his opinion.
Right. So, here we have not the Overlook Hotel, but really the Timberline Hotel. This is in Oregon.
Yeah.
The interview. And here's Jack.
Yeah.
Who is a really big deal at this point.
Academy Award winner by this point.
So therein lies a problem, possibly, that you've got this... Well, maybe it's not a problem.
Okay.
But you've got a superstar.
Sure.
Which obviously draws more attention.
Yeah.
And to your point, the movie gained popularity probably through the boom of home video, much like a lot of things did.
Yeah.
Which, as we all know, were the most cocaine-fueled alcoholic years of Stephen King.
Yeah.
And therefore, he was probably not too shy about mincing words.
Yeah. And from what I've heard, that when he was writing the novel, he was also still battling alcoholism.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So that's why there's a theme of that in Torrance's character.
So, I don't know how much we want to get into that right off the bat.
We got a lot of time.
We do. But that's one of the really big... There are a lot of major differences between the novel and the film. And I love that Tom and Jerry mug she's got there. That's fun. I think that is part of the problem that Stephen King has with this movie. Like, normally he doesn't care.
Sure,
like,
whatever.
He takes a paycheck.
Yeah.
It's very much...
His tech's still out there.
Right. Here's our first glimpse of Tony and the manifestation of his shine through this voice.
Sure.
And we've already set up that he does not want to go. Which, okay, fine. Anyway. So, what was I saying? I was saying that...
Alcoholism.
Yes. He normally, just takes a paycheck.
Yeah.
And part of the issue is that this story is kind of semi-autobiographical.
Yeah.
In that he kind of came to realize that his alcoholism could have destroyed his family and that he was not so great of a dad.
Right.
And so he wrote a story about a guy...
Kind of a catharsis.
Right, about a guy who has demons of alcoholism, and that, I don't know, like that particular... All of the character traits that he wrote into Jack Torrance were stripped away by Kubrick and the other lady that co-wrote it.
That kept throwing me off. It looks like Fred Willard.
He does look like Fred Willard, yes. He is not as likable as Fred Willard. That China is very interesting as well. So, I don't know. I feel like I get it, and a lot of people really like this movie for what it is. And then there's a whole bunch of people that think it could have been so much better had they just left in some of those character traits and made it more of a character piece instead of a blockbuster kind of big Hollywood.
I'll say, like, part of my thing is about the character stuff.
Okay.
There's a certain quality of film where I feel like there's not as much showing of a progression of character throughout the story. I mean, in a part way, because a lot of stuff was kind of contentious about Jack being cast in the role, because a lot of these things, like, you look at Jack, he's got that face of a guy who just looks like he's crazy. I mean, that face.
Right.
I mean, it just like... He has put on other performances where he plays other things than that. He's capable of doing that, but this performance, what he's expressing in the performance, it feels too much like it's already there. And it doesn't take a lot for it to get out of there. It just feels like, for me, as we go along the film, talk on it later, feels like there's a lack of showing of a character development in that regard.
There is very much a sense of he is a normal, everyday guy in the novel that has a slow and steady decline into insanity, which is brought on twofold. One, by his need for alcohol that is exacerbated by cabin fever and the fact that the location is haunted.
Yeah, right.
And to your point, they don't really go into that.
No.
This one is very much about the hotel is evil. And that's it. You know what I mean?
I'll when we get to stuff.
Okay.
We'll talk more about it. I did have problems with the pacing on the film, and certainly that's something that other people brought up at the time.
Sure.
Like, I was trying to watch... I actually went through this first part of the film twice. And there's just something about how it's just flat shots, There's no music. It's just long dialogue interchanges. There's no rise and fall in the scene to feel like it's getting somewhere. It feels like
talkie.
It feels like I'm watching a documentary.
He already looks crazy, to your point.
Right.
Also, I don't know about a job interview where the interviewer tells the interviewee that, oh, by the way, people were murdered here. Right. The last person that did your job went crazy and murdered people.
Right.
I feel like that's a thing. The other thing that Kubrick did was changed the entire trajectory of the end game to all of the characters, including the hotel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Jack and the hotel both suffered different outcomes in the movie here than they did in the novel.
Yeah.
And there's some Snoopy mixed in with some Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, with some Minnie Mouse and a duck. I don't know what the duck is. Very much a child's playroom area feel.
Sure.
What do we got? Kool-Aid, grape, gross. Joy and Ivory, yes, I like that. We got Captain Crunch, love that. Two more Kool-Aids up on the up. That's fun.
A lot of books.
Avis Rental Car, they're still in business. That bellhop apparently has nothing to do. Anyway.
Sure.
So there are, because let's do, everyone's watched this movie. It's been 45 years.
I'm sure.
At the end of the novel, the hotel blows up.
Yes.
So all of the events that lead up to the blowing up of the hotel have to be excised from the movie because we're not going down that path.
Yes.
So I feel like that's another, like, you can do without certain things. I'm an adaptation apologist.
Yeah.
We talk about this all the time.
Yeah.
You change things for various reasons.
Right.
Now, if you're telling me, like, this is a very iconic thing,
Sure.
right? The Grady twins, the blood in the elevator.
Yeah.
None of which are in the novel, by the way.
I'm sure. I feel that.
The Grady twins as characters are in the novel,
Sure.
but not in any way that resembles that.
Yes.
So, like, they made a fundamental decision to change the ending of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
The ending to the story, excuse me.
Yeah.
In the movie. And therefore, they had to change...
Retroactively.
Right.
Excise.
Right, various things.
Which can affect other things.
Right, that's correct. Like, and all of that web that is weaved by the things that they eliminated lead to character development that is also then forcibly excised.
Yeah.
So, to your point, it ends up feeling like everyone's just kind of... There's not a lot of explanation.
Sure, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
there's a lot of imagery in the film that seems to just be there to imply things,
right?
Or just to give you weird things to look at without having a context for it.
Correct. Which is a very Kubrick thing to do.
And I'm not a fan of Kubrick. I've sat through 2001. I was bored out of my fucking mind.
I never did. I don't think
you'd get gay on it with it either.
Yeah, I don't think I would either.
So, and that's the extent of my Kubrick. A little bit of Eyes Wide Shut, but I've never actually sat down and watched the film start to end.
Eyes Wide Shut, I didn't care for at the beginning, and then I rewatched it recently, and I loved it.
Okay.
It might be... I was going to say it might be my favorite Kubrick film. I do have such a fond memory and love for this, but I can separate the art from the artist.
Yeah.
And I can read the novel and say, oh, this is like a 10 as far as the pantheon of fiction goes. Much of King's work takes place in the mind.
Sure, psychological.
Right. It's hard to film that a lot of times.
That's why there's probably a number of them that don't work. As adaptations.
Correct.
That people don't know how to adapt it from this internal narration and thought and perspective and externalize that.
Like there is
and sometimes there's just no real way to do it without losing the spirit of what you wrote originally. It's a potential type of thing.
Right. We talk a lot on these commentaries about screenplay structure and format.
Sure.
And one of the things that I learned very early on when I was learning about how to write a screenplay is when you write down a sentence on your script, if you can't take a photograph of that, then it has to go.
Right.
Because you might not be the one making it.
Right.
So I can't write like...
If an actor can't act it or if you can't film it and visualize it, there's no point.
There's no point in writing it down.
Right.
Now, Stephen King, if you read a Stephen King novel, anybody out there, you'll know that it's full of, like, italices and parentheticals, and all of that is meant to be, like, mental triggers that are mid-sentence.
Right.
A callback to something.
Yeah.
A thought, a recurring thought, a mental decline. And you can't take a picture of that. At least not in a linear form.
You have to find some way to, externalize it.
Which makes a lot of this hard to film. There is a really funny, group of memes going around about the ash on Shelley Duvall's cigarette. And just how long and ridiculous it gets. Which is funny. We recently lost Shelley Duvall, who was kind of a mental case for a hot minute. She was a recluse. She was all kinds of weird.
Well, considering what Kurbick did to her on this film, I don't blame her.
I mean, look at that ash. It's so funny.
I think got twice as long in about 5 seconds.
In one, she just took a heavy drag.
In one fucking cut.
Yeah, she took a big drag.
You have to worry about that with films anymore. It's like no smoking no more. Anna.
Which is
nada.
A shame.
Big nada.
It's such a good character trait.
Sure.
So here we have exposition, right? In this part of the novel would be a separate little sub-chapter, right? Like a flashback, where you tell the story.
That's the thing. That's another problem I have. Is, okay, you're telling the audience everything. There's no show.
Right.
Not that it's badly acted, but it's like, okay, we're getting told information.
Yeah.
Instead of having the characters act out the scenario.
You lost a little bit, girlfriend. A little bit fell on the floor.
Yeah. So it's like it feels like a documentary I'm watching, just talking heads on the screen instead of actually seeing something happen to the characters.
Yeah.
I mean, told what happened to them like a month ago.
Now, that story about the school papers and him breaking the arm, it's a fairly significant point in the novel.
Right.
And then it is, to your point, it is just kind of not glossed over, but it's exposited.
Yeah.
It would have been great if they'd just done a little backstory or a flashback or something.
Something, yeah.
There's a dad thing to say, right?
Yeah. And again, he just looks like he's just ready to snap as it is.
Right, he's already crazy.
Yeah, he's already on the edge of it. Even I knew what the Donner Party was.
I'm pretty sure I learned what the Donner Party was because of this movie. When I was, however old I was, 12 or 13 when I saw this. I think Danny Lloyd is outstanding in this.
Okay.
I mean, he's not as good as some of the other child actors we've seen. He's no Miko Hughes.
I was going to say, Miko's our golden...
Right. I mean, Miko's in a class of his own, right? I don't think that Danny Lloyd could deliver boys have a penis, girls have a vagina.
The one in my mind.
With quite the same,
tenor.
Tone and tenor, right. Veracity. The hotel situation, they picked this one in Oregon, even though it's supposed to be in Colorado, because it looks pretty, right?
Yeah, I think there's also the Stanley Hotel, which was the inspiration and where the miniseries was shot.
Correct.
Apparently didn't have I don't think they had enough snow at the time of the year they wanted to shoot at to make it convincing.
Yeah,
and Kurbick's a lot of aesthetic type of guy in that regard too. So
I think, don't quote me on this, but I think this hotel in Oregon actually does shut down in the winter.
Okay,
maybe I'm wrong on that. I know the Stanley Hotel is open all year round.
Okay,
in Estes Park, Colorado. I've been there. It's fucking beautiful. We'll talk more about that in a little while. So that could have also played into it too, that they couldn't afford to shut down operation for any period of time.
That's something as well.
The little hint of photographs on the wall.
Sure.
So King actually stayed at the Stanley Hotel in Colorado. It's at Rocky Mountain National Park. If anybody is ever wanting to go there, it's friggin' amazing. If you're a fan of the miniseries, like you said, they did film that there. It was the inspiration for the whole thing, because King stayed there. This is such a personal work for him.
Yeah.
Between the alcoholism, the potential abuse of his own children, which has never really been stated, but it kind of implied. And then, the creepy hotel, which may or may not be haunted. And all of it together, you can see why he'd be kind of mad that
it took so many liberties.
There were so many, right? And it you can take liberties. I don't think that's in question. But I don't know, when you change the entire meaning of the whole reason you're there.
Yeah.
Then it's like, oh.
Yeah.
Now, like I said, I can look at this for what it is and be entertained. He really does look like Fred Willard, doesn't he?
Right, especially the hair. It's all in the hair.
The cherubic face.
Yeah. The thing is, this guy in the Christopher Guest movies.
Yeah.
He's in Best in Show and everything.
What happened?
I just looked up Best in Show. I was like, okay, that's the guy I'm looking for.
I met Fred Willard. Did I ever tell you that?
No.
When I went to the Chicago Film Critics Association Awards.
Okay.
In 2000, it was the year that Almost Famous. So 2000. So it was in 2001 for the year 2000. And I ended up in the front row.
Oh, whoa.
Me and my buddy. So I've got a high school classmate of mine. Her dad was a film reviewer, critic for the local newspaper. So I got to know him very well because, A, he was the father of my schoolmate, and also because he came into the movie theater every 3 days to write reviews for the newspaper.
Okay.
He was part of the Chicago Film Critics Association.
Cool.
So he gave me the tip-off of when the tickets were going to go on sale. So I was first in line on the website or whatever, ended up in the front row with my buddy that I went with, who also worked in the movie theater, and 4 seats down from us was Roger Ebert and his wife.
Okay.
And we were in the front row, and we heard a rumor that Tom Hanks was going to be presenting Best Picture.
Okay.
And like all the people. Ellen Burstyn was there. She won an
cool.
award.
Yeah.
Bonnie
Nice.
Hunt. Fred Willard was the host of the event.
Okay, well, he's well adept for it.
Right. And so it gets to be the last award of the evening. Tom Hanks comes out and he says, oh, by the way, I've got a surprise. He goes, I couldn't do this by myself, so I want to bring out some help. And FYI, in suburban Chicago, they were filming the film Road to Perdition at the time.
Okay,
So he brings out Paul Newman.
Yeah.
So here I am.
Yeah. Lord. Legend of legends.
15 feet away from Tom Hanks and Paul Newman. Like,
Yeah.
unbelievable. Anyway, we went to the after party.
Oh.
We walked into the hotel room, and there were several celebrities there. Hanks and Newman, no, but several others.
Sure.
And Willard was just like walking around,
Yeah,
so we got to talk.
smoothing.
We got to talk to him.
Sure.
All right, we've talked over Scatman Crothers. The ballroom. This is the bar, which they've made a point of telling us is not stocked with anything. Scatman Crothers playing Dick Halloran.
Yeah.
That fire exit looks like it's blocked, by the way. Speaking of, great segue.
Yeah.
Dick Halloran, the character, makes a recurring, not a recurring, he makes a cameo in a later film. I believe we talked about this. In Stephen King's It.
Okay.
There is a backstory.
Is the black
The black nightclub that burns down.
Okay.
Dick Halloran is a character that escaped that fire
Okay, cool.
and went on to become the cook at the Overlook Hotel.
Okay.
He was the cook at that little
Nah.
restaurant, bar, nightclub, which I thought was a super cool little Easter egg
Nice,
when I read that. I was like, oh, King loves to intertwine people, right?
Yeah. And Crothers, you end up doing some voice acting later on. He was the character of Jazz on Transformers until he passed away, I think, 85, 86.
Was it that long ago?
Right, because I just did the video on the Transformers movie, and that was his last performance before he passed, and that was 86 that came out.
Wow, I didn't think that I thought he lived a lot longer than that.
Yeah, as far as what I was told. Him and Orson Welles. Hell of a situation. There it is. November of 86 he passed. 1910 to 86. 76 years old. Sure as hell doesn't look. He looks pretty vital for 70.
Yeah,
On the verge of 70 here.
Yeah, to think that he's only a handful of years away from going.
Curious.
I do like that in this tour here, we are getting a little bit of a sneak preview of
The malignant tumor in his lung.
Oh.
Metastasized. So.
We're getting the tour of the place, and we're also getting a sneak preview of some of the locations that show up later on, so that we have a sense of geography.
Yeah.
A little bit.
I feel it's a little drawn out to my flavor.
This here?
It feels I know there's certain writers who would go about it in a little bit of a different way in terms of like not just walking you through and expositing everything. They would have
Look at all that Maxwell House coffee, by the way.
They'd maybe have characters talking about things more personally, about themselves, and as they go along, you find out more about the thing. It's more of a play the tour as a background thing as you deal with more like character stuff in the forefront.
Sure.
Kind of like best way to have people doing things is doing it as they're doing other business.
We've set up the fact that both of these two can kind of communicate via the shine.
Yeah.
Interestingly, Ullman is taking Jack now to the basement to show him, quote, a couple things
That we're not going to see.
that we're never going to see. And that is the entire crux of that storyline, where in the basement is a very finicky boiler. So he takes him to the boiler room.
Despite the fact that he mentioned the boiler throughout parts of the film, I think.
which is, I guess, like an Easter egg, or it's...
I may be complaining because I watched a video talking about the miniseries, so I might be...
It could just be...
thoughts.
It could be that because they did shoot some scenes, from what I understand.
Okay.
Not regarding the boiler and the boiler eventually exploding, but the fact that the basement contained also scrapbooks and various boxes of records.
Very flammable things.
Yes, but boxes of records that basically is where Jack learns about the history of the hotel.
Okay.
All of which were, I think some of those scenes were filmed and then removed.
Okay.
Even though I'm pretty sure we see a scrapbook at some point in this movie.
It's seen. I don't think they comment on it.
Correct. Which makes it out of context.
So, yeah, it makes it...
So...
lends credence to deleted scenes.
And you're right. This is kind of drawn out.
It's... to me, it's the fact...
Go ahead.
...that visually you're not doing much. The visuals, like the camera angle on Scatman Crothers, it's just the same flat shot over and over again. You're not doing anything to kind of change the framing or change the shot angle to kind of emphasize what he's doing in the scene, how it's progressing to certain degrees. So it doesn't kind of feel like there's any kind of like dramatic escalation in the scene, or it's getting more and more intimate or something else like that.
Like you're saying, maybe we start with a wide shot and we slow zoom.
Move in further to make it more and more personal. And maybe kind of tap into a little bit of the edge of foreboding to a certain degree.
To your point, again, there's also no score right now.
Right.
Which, I mean, I don't think...
You don't always have to have score.
Right, I don't think you need it all the time.
No.
And Kubrick loves the silence, because then when there's not silence, it means more,
right,
I guess, is his theory.
There's a lot of filmmakers who know how to use the sound, like Friedkin, De Palma, stuff like that. They know the value of silence, the value of the contrast of sound.
John Carpenter.
Carpenter, too,
You go from nothing, and then all of a sudden you get the dun-dun, dun-dun.
Yeah.
And all of us, now you're scared.
Right.
John Williams, is another one.
Knows when to put in a cue, when not to play it.
Right.
Yeah.
So Kubrick is famous for these long, dramatic,
sure,
monologues and various whatevers.
Sure.
Which he never, I don't know, he did Clockwork Orange, right?
Yes.
I don't know if I'd go so far as to call that a horror movie.
It's very psychological.
Yeah.
Bent on things, yeah, but not horror.
And in a way, much of this is not even a horror movie.
Very drama-esque.
Yeah, right. It's like The Exorcist. It's a drama for 90% of it.
Sure.
Until it's not.
Right.
And then people remember until it's not.
Right.
And they project that backwards onto the whole thing.
Sure.
So there's a fond memory of all, the totality, even though they really only probably loved 25% of it.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
I love it start to finish.
The Exorcist?
It's brilliant. Yeah, it's brilliant.
Funny how that director's cut with the extra 9 minutes or whatever makes so much better.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's a whole different movie.
Glad he had to argue freaking for that for like 20 years, maybe longer than that.
Well, it was 20 years when they re-released it theatrically.
So, somewhere around that range. Yeah, 20 some odd years. 25 years and change. But glad he got his way, and glad he was correct on what needed to be in there.
Right. So good. Yeah. Let's talk about Room 237, shall we? Here's a weird thing.
Fucking conspiracy theories.
Yeah. Well, first of all, in the novel, the room number is 217. Not 237, 217. What's the big goddamn deal to just make the movie the same. Why?
heard-
Why would you change it? There are a couple prevailing theories, but there's one that I think is the conspiracy theory you're about to touch on.
Well, no, I was going to say, I heard from one video, basically it's like, the hotel didn't have a 237 room actually. They had a 217, and they didn't want to use 217 in the film because they would kind of mark it as this sort of thing for tourists.
I think people still ask for
so
217 no matter what.
Right. So from what I heard, the hotel asked for them to change the number of the room. Because there was no 213, but there was 217. And they didn't want people going to wanting 217 or avoiding 217 altogether.
Sure.
Based on the back of the film. I don't know shit about any of these conspiracy theories. I just know there's 5 billion of them, and most of them sound pretty ludicrous.
Well, there's one, prevailing one.
Go for it.
So.
A whole fucking documentary about this.
Yeah,
shit.
there
And
is.
I'm not going to watch a minute of it.
I've seen it. There's one prevailing theory. So, first of all, you have to believe that they faked the moon landing.
Oh, gosh.
Which
I don't know this shit, but
I'm actually on board with that part of it. I don't know if we ever actually went to the moon. I'm pretty sure what's his name, Buzz Aldrin, has debunked it like a bunch of times. Anyway, so first of all, the premise one is that the moon landing was staged. Premise two is that Stanley Kubrick is the one that filmed it, which is a prevailing theory. And he's dead now, so we can't say one way or the other. The distance between the Earth and the Moon is 237,000 miles, which is where the theory comes from that the 237 is the distance to the Moon for which the landing was faked by Stanley Kubrick.
fine. Go have your theories. You know?
It makes way more sense.
It doesn't affect the film to me.
Though it makes way more sense that the hotel just said, hey, for our sake, can you just change it to a number that doesn't exist?
Yeah, I don't know. Whatever.
That makes more sense to everybody.
Okay.
I just think it's hilarious. So, I do believe that we faked the moon landing.
I was trying to read through analysis on Wikipedia. Most of it sounded like pretentious horse shit to me.
Well, it is. So I'll stop at premise one. I do believe we faked the moon landing, but I don't think that Kubrick's involvement in that, nor the distance betwixt the two planetary units are indicative of anything in Stephen King's The Shining.
Sure. Like
You're so disgusted right now.
It's like there's theories I'm reading about, like, oh, because the name brand on this box of freaking oatmeal, it means 5,000 things about the Native American lore that's supposed to impact this thing and the Holocaust. Shove it up your ass. The fact that Kubrick's just sitting back and what's he going to answer in this shit about fucking 2001? He's not answering anything about this.
Well,
He's just sitting back, go ahead, whatever. He's probably got jack shit to say about any of it. Certainly nothing now because he's no longer with us.
Right.
26 years gone.
I don't know. Okay, so in the novel, there is no hedge maze.
No.
But what there are topiaries.
Yes.
And the topiaries are in the shapes of animals. Mm-hmm. And it's a big flowing, like, garden that leads up to the hotel. And there is one particular scene where Danny is out playing and the topiaries start to come to life.
Sure.
And it is kind of terrifying to read about. Like, King has such a way with
it's
words.
It's probably a lot more effective than the bad CGI in the miniseries.
That's correct.
Like, you didn't have the budget to do this the right way.
So it's funny that they didn't have. It wasn't. I don't know if it's the budget, but I don't think they could. They didn't think that they could pull off the animatronics or whatever.
They'd have to do some kind of stop motion-y thing, and I just don't feel like Kubrick wants to go down that route.
But this, I feel like, is way bigger of a production.
Yeah.
Like, this probably costs 3 times what that would cost.
Is it even was it an installation at this place ahead of time then?
Well, I think that's all just a set.
Okay.
I don't think that hedge maze exists. Like, that was created for the movie.
Okay. That would take, I don't know how you build that.
I mean, yeah, you can just make movable walls and kind of reshoot or move around, you know. But, like, the amount of time it took to even make this model.
Sure, yeah, that's...
Like, you could have just built some topiaries.
Yeah.
And done some shit.
Sure.
I don't know. Like, obviously, this is intended to be an exaggeration.
Yeah.
I don't know how you'd ever get out of there.
Well, yeah, that's what freaking Ullman was saying. He's like, I gotta lay a trail of breadcrumbs to find my way out of the damn thing. I mean, I'm sure the brush is way too thick to just kind of push your way through.
Right. Yeah, look at how thick those walls are.
Yeah, there's no way you're just boring through it like a rhino or something.
I mean, it is pretty elaborate. Now, maybe they found one somewhere, but the hedge maze was like...
Because it's out back, so, I mean...
Right.
From that shot, it doesn't look like there's any room for it because the mountain's right behind the stupid place.
Sure.
So, let me...
God, fruit cocktail. I used to love fruit cocktail when I was a kid.
Zip through, see if there's anything about the thing here.
About the hedge maze?
Yeah.
Who needs that much fruit cocktail for one family, though? Like, I get it if you're serving it at dinner. If it's a dessert option in the banquet room, like, that's different, but good God. These shots are pretty iconic, and I do love them. I like this visual of him riding the tricycle around.
Sure.
Because I do think if you're in this position, right, you're however old he is, 5, 6, 7,
Something.
5, 6, and you have the run of an entire hotel. Like, This is probably what you'd be doing. And it's so cool. And all his shine has told him is that something bad happened in this room at this point. Anyway, back to the boiler for a minute. Mm-hmm. I think they mentioned it. Ullman said something about it in the interview scene.
Sure.
But the boiler actually becomes like a character in the movie. Okay. Or I'm sorry, in the book. Because there are various valves and pressure gauges and whatever that need to be checked daily. Mm-hmm. Pressure release, this, that, the other thing. It's a major part of the job.
The operation.
It's the whole point of a caretaker is we need to be able to
maintain the
machinery.
Why do you fucking need anyone around?
Right.
Just sit there and just watch the place.
Right. So that does kind of defeat the entire purpose.
Surely.
Is not having that storyline in there.
If you're not having a guy do maintenance, then what the fuck?
Right. So throughout the novel, the boiler almost acts as like a barometer for the hotel getting more and less evil, right? Like it's kind of like the symbol that represents the overall evilness of the hotel, right? It's the heartbeat.
Yes.
The heartbeat of the hotel.
Okay. The maze was filmed on the backlot at MGM Studios in England.
Okay.
So it was constructed and kind of integrated to a degree. It's weird because when Ullman was doing the tour, and they actually show a piece of the thing.
There's a scrapbook right there by the...
Yeah, lower end of the frame. Because when Ullman's doing the tour, and he's walking them and saying, here's this hedge maze and everything, we see the hotel in the back, so maybe they used a set piece and brought it over.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe.
Or it's just, like, painted in or something.
It had done something to kind of marry this location.
So while he's down there...
Yeah.
Doing the maintenance that he is required to do...
Yeah.
He comes across the boxes of all the newspaper clippings and the scrapbooks of all the evil shit that has happened at this hotel. And the history of the hotel with the Indian whatever and all the things. Okay. So, and kind of how, like evil can find a spot to call home, right?
Manifest.
And Jack is much more of a character in the movie than the book. I feel like it's almost like Danny's the main character.
That's what I heard. Danny's more the focus of the novel.
Of the novel, correct. But when you cast Jack fucking Nicholson, Academy Award winner...
Right. Big bucks.
You write the script...
Around him. Yeah.
Wendy also...
Vastly different.
From what I remember, she was very strong-willed.
Yeah, that's what I read. She's an independent woman. She's a blonde-haired woman.
Right.
So like diametrically flipped.
Yeah.
Which...
Because they were really
not taking away from Duvall's performance, but just how the character of Wendy is written is like she's just not much of a character.
Well, she's a wet blanket, right?
Right, that's the thing. There's not much of a substance to her character.
And if you start off where they're already not equal at the beginning, right? Like he's already brooding and she, commanding and
tearing at the seams,
domineering over her character.
Yeah. There's not many places to go.
Right. You
don't have nowhere to deteriorate from.
Correct.
That's kind of my thing. Because as we get here in just a minute, the zoom in close up on Jack, this thing here, like he's already there.
Right, and we're only 45 minutes in.
Right. There's still another
hour and a half. Yeah. Now, granted,
that's it's not taking away from Nicholson's performance.
No, he's great.
But the character progression just isn't there. There's no real deterioration because it's like half a step away from just getting to the breaking point.
Right, it's only Saturday. I mean, yeah, we're a month in.
But still, that's the thing. It's like what happened, you could take that month and show the progression of how it deteriorates and goes along to a certain degree to show more of the mental state of the character in that regard. But it seems like to me Kubrick wants it to be a psychological film without having to take the steps to show from the good-natured man that's underneath to show the monster that he becomes.
Right.
He just wants to show the madness taking over.
I don't disagree with you.
He wants the back end of it, not quite as much the front end of it. And what I read is like King's story was focused a lot more on the supernatural and how that kind of poisons Torrance.
Correct. The hotel, the evil hotel, and it's kind of the past just repeats itself, right?
Yeah.
And
it preys on his weaknesses and tempts him and twists him around a little bit. It's like away from this place, he may be able to cope with it, but as the forces around him eat away at his resolve, then he doesn't have anything left as a barrier in that regard.
Right. And then, of course, there's the idea that he is... The way that the movie is written, the whole concept of him being, having always been there, so to speak, is slightly confusing, right?
Right, because we haven't even got to the hallucination stuff, so I'll wait till we get to it.
Yeah.
But there's certain other elements where it doesn't quite... There's a certain feeling for me that doesn't quite feel like he has one step planted kind of in one place, but kind of steps a little bit outside of that place in terms of his approach, in terms of supernatural versus psychological.
Yeah, and Kubrick, because Kubrick's such a visual person.
Right.
Like, you said earlier that there are some things that he presents on the screen that are literally just to create a visual stimulus.
Yeah.
Like the blood coming out of the elevator.
Right.
That has nothing to do with anything.
There's no context to it.
Right. And even the idea behind the Grady girls getting chopped up, that doesn't create blood in the elevator.
No.
Like, that's literally just a visual that he created
right.
as an iconic, lasting image.
Right.
For you to go home and say, tell your wife, hey, my buddies and I saw this movie, and
it flooded with blood.
Right. There were hotels, elevators filled with blood. It was so great.
Yeah.
Like, visually, this is friggin' awesome.
Sure.
That's friggin' awesome.
Yeah.
I love it. And I love the close-up on him.
Sure.
I like that they got closer and closer on the girls.
Yeah.
The girls have started doing the convention tour.
Okay. Well, they got to be.
Yeah, they're in their
Almost
60s. Yeah.
60s, yeah.
Yeah. Almost. Yeah.
55 at least.
Yeah. So I don't remember, and I didn't obviously have a chance to go back and reread it. It's not the longest book; it's only 350.
Okay. Manageable.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to read it again before.
Still, a commitment of time, but leisurely and King standards.
Right.
1,200-page opuses.
Right, and really most of them are in the 400 to 5, range, 3 to 400.
Yeah.
With some exceptions. And I don't recall exactly how the Grady family
Bit it?
no, just how they were utilized in the storytelling.
Okay.
I know that they existed before, and the whole scene with the Grady being the bartender, like all of that is real. Like ports over in a little different way from what I remember. Like it's not the same. Would she have to ask that? Oh, Daddy's asleep. Okay.
Surprised you'd get TV reception out in this joint.
Yeah.
No rabbit ears or anything.
And this is probably in an era before there were TVs in the rooms.
Yeah, individual hotel rooms. Yeah, probably not.
Yeah. Old Coca-Cola can there, the flat top, just a basic cylinder. I like that. Ugh, bad wallpaper.
Oof. We deal with a lot of floral patterns.
Yeah.
And upholstery and wallpaper.
The
drapes.
The carpet has become very iconic.
Oh, yeah, thoroughly.
You can buy, shirts and...
Shirts all over Etsy.
Yeah. There's actually some...
Legit
places, too. There's one place that I know of where you can buy a carpet runner and, put it in your hallway or whatever,
sure.
the long...
Say he's wearing a Mickey Mouse shirt, like Disney. I don't know if they'd sign off on all this stuff today.
Right.
But this time, Disney would take any dollar you give them.
Right.
They were in the dark times.
This was maybe the lowest point.
Oh, yeah. No doubt.
Ever in the whole history of Disney was this year.
They're sinking fast.
And then they had that coup to get Roy thrown off the board.
Yeah.
And by, I don't know, 84, they brought in Michael Eisner from Paramount.
Eisner's Renaissance.
Yep. Because I'm pretty sure it was either him or Katzenberg that they stole from Paramount and was the head of Paramount. Like, in the boom of, like, up through Beverly Hills Cop, it was like...
Yeah, I think it was Eisner Eisner was Paramount, the Eddie Murphy stuff.
Yeah.
All that, yeah.
I definitely see your point about the deterioration just being kind of instant.
Yeah.
And
I can't really say that this is all that much removed from how he was in the first scene, how I felt about him walking into the interview as much.
His hair was nicer.
For sure.
He smiled a little more.
Right, but it still felt like there was an undercurrent of some sort of unsettled quality in his life.
Which, if you're going with the theory that he's always been there and this is a kind of a reincarnation of a previous whatever, then that makes sense.
Yeah.
But you don't get the narrative of the evil hotels and the forces with which it caused him to deteriorate.
Right.
Like, you're standing alone on the narrative of he's already evil.
Yeah.
And it's not the hotel's fault.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And I guess that's fine. I wonder what it would cost to find that Mickey Mouse sweater right now.
Ooh.
Like, what a cosplay that would be at a convention, right? With the plaid flannel.
Sure.
And the Mickey Mouse over it.
Yeah.
And the bangs. That'd be a great cosplay.
Up, yeah.
We're still not to the midpoint.
No. No.
I don't know if I know what the actual event is.
Yes.
I'll probably know it and feel it when I see it.
Surely. I mean, seriously.
What?
The expression.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he's a maniac right now.
Sure.
After saying, I'll never ever hurt you. I mean, he's already the Joker, okay? Come on.
It would have been nice if he...
They took stills from this, painted it white. That's the Joker. 89. Go for it. Pay him a fortune for it.
Yeah, it sure would have been nice if he said all that with a straight face.
Right. More sincerity instead of crazy face. Again, that is what we're kind of missing. This whole thing is just the signs of the good man underneath, like I said earlier. And that's your space.
Yep.
Conspiracy.
Yep.
Or shit.
Because Apollo 11 is the one that went to the moon.
Yes.
That was the one that Kubrick faked, quote unquote.
Feels like Kubrick's just playing with everyone.
I don't know. I don't know.
Oh.
That's a weird coincidence, right?
It's peculiar.
It's peculiar. I'm not saying one way or the other. I'm just saying that's peculiar.
So here's a positing question, maybe a poll question for you.
Okay.
We know Kubrick, like, he's a 100-take man. Like, driven to the edge of tears of people like Scatman Crothers, Shelley Duvall, just like mental breakdowns on set. Who would you rather work with, Kubrick or Friedkin?
Oh.
Maniac with the gun.
Now...
I honestly would go to Friedkin.
Look at this.
I think Friedkin you can at least rationalize with. You can talk with him.
Look at this shit. We've got...
Oh, yeah.
Her...
Yeah.
Being the one checking the boiler.
Yeah. It's this thing that says King on the back.
I forget. Yeah, I don't know.
Anyway.
But, like, isn't that... It's so counterintuitive to what the novel,
Sure.
you know...
Yeah. Sets up.
And as far as I remember, the whole idea of him having a writer's block is not a thing.
Okay.
Like, that's a good...
Sure.
Something.
Harrowing moment. Mental anguish, perhaps.
Right.
Well, yeah, so Kubrick or Friedkin?
I'm taking Friedkin, 100%.
Yeah.
Let's go cruising. Because he was also a multiple take guy, right?
I'm sure he
Friedkin?
was. I mean, he would whip out a gun and fire it off screen, but I think you can at least try to rationalize and tame down the madness. Kubrick is just like, I don't know what he's after.
I don't know if he knew. I think Kubrick was mentally ill.
Possibly. He didn't make a lot of friends, it seems. These type of actors.
We haven't even... There's been no talk about the alcohol at this point. You know what I mean?
No, because it's all dried up. There's nothing...
Right, but I'm saying there's no craving.
There's not craving at this point until he goes kind of full tilt.
Right.
Right. Because, I mean, as if it's not clear already, it's just the fact that Kubrick latched on to completely different things.
Right.
And just didn't have the same reverence for the themes and the material.
Right. He wanted to do his own thing. And that's fine.
And there's even looking at like interviews with King and whatnot, and there's one where it's like, Kubrick thought like a ghost story is inherently optimistic because like, oh, that means there's something after death. I mean, King's like, well, being trapped in a place as a ghost for eternity feels like it's a fate worse than hell.
Right.
That shows just such a diametric opposition of philosophies.
So I like the implication that that Jack did something.
Sure.
And this is the first time that Wendy has shown any sort of assertiveness.
Sure.
Maybe it's not even assertiveness, though.
Yeah, just some sort of adversarial.
So, what I don't like is that even though we are seeing some deterioration of Jack,
Sure.
he's going crazy.
Right.
We have not talked about, in any way, why it's happening.
Right.
There's been no mention of alcohol.
No.
There's been no mention of ghosts.
Yeah.
There's been no mention of the evil hotel.
Right.
Other than
The preface at the beginning with Ullman.
the idea that he's stir crazy is
Yeah.
the only thing.
Yeah.
That's literally the only
Right.
motive
right.
that we've given. Yes, look at him. Academy Award-winning performance.
Yeah.
Not for this, but
Right.
it
Other
could have
stuff.
been.
Yeah.
Could have been. Best Picture this year went to Ordinary People with Donald Sutherland, Mary Tyler Moore. Great movie about parents dealing with the suicide of their son.
Oh, Lordy.
Fantastic movie.
I mean, Sutherland was just a gold mine
Yep.
of fabulous
Yep.
performances.
I don't think this was nominated for things.
No, it was not. I mean, a lot of the critical reaction was not glowing. It was very combative against the film to a degree. The Razzies, as much as they're not worth anything, did throw some shit at it.
Yeah, I don't even know if the Razzies were around then.
No, they were.
Oh, they
I
were.
think they were pretty brand new at that point. But
I'd give anything for a drink. Why are we an hour and 4 in?
And now,
Roughly. And this is really, like, this 10 minutes is probably some of the most iconic. Well, it's not the most iconic, but
Sure.
it's up there, right?
top end of it, yeah.
Like, this is easily a award nominate worthy
Sure.
performance out of Jack. In this scene.
Yeah. And it's interesting, linked to my comment at the beginning about Blade Runner, Joe Turkel was also in Blade Runner. He was
Oh,
portraying the bartender.
all right.
So, wrote an actor and some footage. He's really good. Altogether. He's got this great timbre about the whole situation.
I do love the visual, though, that he sits down in an empty bar and all of a sudden there's a bartender in a full bar. So, you know, he's hallucinating, clearly.
Right, that's my interpretation. It's hallucination. But there's certain things later on in the film that kind of lean towards either it's not hallucination entirely because other people see things as well.
Right.
And
Well,
it
I
kind
think
of muddies the issue between whether or not
I feel like maybe
Kurbick's going supernatural or he's just going psychological or he's trying to keep feeding both things and not quite reconcile
not
both.
picking a lane.
Right.
Now, if I remember correctly, and it's been probably 10 years since I've read the novel.
Sure.
I've read it 3 times. Like,
That's pretty thorough.
I love it.
Sure.
But I also have a memory problem, as you know.
Yeah.
So,
some days are better than others.
Some days are better than others. I feel like all of these types of scenes in the novel are presented as they're actually happening.
Yeah.
As in, the hotel is coming alive.
Right.
And
King's intention is supernatural.
Correct.
It is the hotel having a life of its own.
Yes, and these things are happening to Jack as, you know, a way to bring him home, quote unquote.
Yeah.
To where he's always been.
Mm-hmm.
Referring to your wife as a sperm bank is
That's peculiar.
hilarious.
I mean, this is full tilt Jack here.
That's what I mean. Like, this is an iconic Jack.
Yeah.
Like, there are parts of this that could be... I could make an argument it's like a top 5 Jack performance.
Yeah, highlight reel.
Yeah. Chinny chin chin. God, he's so good.
Right.
You know, Cuckoo's Nest is out of this world good.
And fresh on people's minds as this one's coming out.
Yeah, it was a few years removed.
I think it was 76, maybe. At the
70,
latest. Maybe 74.
3, 4, 5, 75.
Roughly around there.
Yeah, 75. Best picture. So, within 5 years.
Yeah.
Cuckoo's Nest, produced by a very young Michael Douglas, who won the Oscar for Best Picture that year.
Michael Douglas is Hollywood royalty. Very esteemed, respected.
Yep. This telling of it is way better than the other one.
Right. Yeah,
Like,
this is...
I almost think they should have...
This gives you the emotion that you need, the intensity, the backbone of it all.
Right. And now, Kubrick loves these long, drawn-out takes, right?
But if it's that interesting of a performance, I don't have a problem with it.
I don't either. But
earlier, when they're kind of dry, kind of just regular, slow-paced dialogue scenes, it doesn't really compel my intensity in the focus of the film.
We know also Kubrick loves those quick insert shots, like the dead Grady girls. Yeah. How great would it have been if that, right there, if there was just a quick shot of him yanking little Danny off the ground.
Just a little something there.
Just a little flashback.
Uh-huh.
And she looks like a hot mess.
Oh, yeah.
And he looks drunk.
Yeah.
Which, if you're going with the King version of things, he actually is, because the hotel has provided him what he's been longing for.
Yeah. How about some art direction here?
Oh, yeah.
Those lamps.
This might be his actual bedroom. I don't know.
And all this shit, man.
Look at that.
Might as well be Pam Grier.
Jackie Brown, she ate. Where does one even find that painting? Because I think he's got another one over the headboard, too.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
I mean, do they come as a set? He's got 4 lamps in this bedroom alone.
Oh, yeah. They're all the same lamp, too. Got them vinyl on the left and right.
And the right, yeah. It's very symmetrical, man.
Oh, yeah. Well, that feels like Kubrick.
I don't know anybody that has 4 lamps in one room like that.
Especially one that small, yes.
4 table lamps. I think
we're about halfway, just short of
we
it.
Are.
But it's approaching the tipping point.
Doesn't it feel a little late in the game for us to be revisiting The Shining?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, Danny has Tony.
Right.
But we haven't really seen that come alive, right? Like,
right.
Tony is, again, in the novel, Danny's really like the driving force behind the story, and Tony being the voice of reason in this crazy shining hotel. So you get more. This is still his house?
Yep.
Crothers?
I think.
Oh, this is room 237.
It's a suite.
This is room 237. Okay. Yeah. So very Joker colors there on the bed.
Yeah.
You get more Tony and more Shining with the topiaries, and there's a whole scene with a bee's nest where they find a hornet. I think it's a hornet's nest or something.
Okay, yeah.
Wasp's nest.
Yeah.
And they bring it down, and Danny wants to keep it in his bedroom, right. And then days later, it suddenly is full of bees again, and it's scary as fuck.
Oh, I could imagine.
And so, there's these little subplots that kind of indicate how the hotel is working against them. This part is in there, although this doesn't feel like a hotel bathroom to me. You know what I mean?
I don't know what it feels like, to be honest with you.
Like, it's very weird.
Yes,
right?
The design. This almost feels like part of what they might have shot in Pinewood.
Where was I going with that? So we're missing the shine. I feel like it's not...
Right. Well, because the person who has it isn't quite as much of the focus of the story.
Right.
And Halloran has been out of here for the last, 45, 50 minutes?
Jack likes that.
Right.
I don't know how thrilled my mom was with me watching this when I was,
Surely.
13 or whatever I was.
They cut this whole thing out for the ABC premiere.
I'm sure.
They can't zoom that image in enough. It's not going to work.
I don't know, could they blur it out or... Probably not.
I don't know if it got it. I mean, this thing would have to run like at least 2 or 3 nights to fit all this runtime in. They did it, something like that.
It probably ended up on one of the, Showtime or HBO or something. Yeah,
and all that. Yeah, I'm just saying, most big enough movies would get that ABC Sunday night movie treatment.
This is very long and drawn out.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say in terms of, like, big enough film. It cost 19 million, they got by 47. So still, returned by not a knockout of the park hit.
And then it, became cultier on home video.
Yeah.
Where I feel like in the 80s, every movie became a box office success on the back end.
Yeah. HBO rental sales.
Right.
Cable sales.
Oh, look at that ass.
Yeah.
The water spots, the production on that, or the
makeup.
The makeup is pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, it's a creepy ass sequence. I'll give it that.
Yeah. Just having this 70-year-old lady walking around nude. Bravo to this lady, right? Who
going all out for it.
Willing to bear all.
Yeah.
For a long time in a very iconic scene.
Right. But yeah, that does kind of start tipping the balance. Okay, well, Danny saw it and Jack saw it, so that kind of means it's not just in Jack's head.
Right.
Now it's the supernatural coming back in the whole thing. So, it's kind of, like I said, it's kind of muddying the waters.
Now, maybe, from Kubrick's perspective,
surely,
perhaps the bar scene is intended to make you question. Like, the first assumption is that is hallucination.
Yeah.
But then when you see this, then...
on the back of Danny.
Right. Then now you can go backwards and say, well, maybe that wasn't hallucination. Yeah. Uh-oh.
Right.
And...
Sure.
Like, he's using the backwards thinking.
Sure.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm guessing. And I'm not just trying to justify,
no, because you're just throwing out kind of hypotheses of the director's intent,
right? And because I enjoy this movie.
Surely.
She is so frumpy and disheveled all the time.
Oh, yeah.
They're overall, she's got on 4 layers.
And this is the one heated place in the entire joint.
Right. Which is heated by the boiler.
Yes.
And what's supposed to happen is you're supposed to heat different parts of the hotel at different times.
Okay.
So that, everything kind of takes a turn. Right.
But Ullman said this is the only heated suite in the place.
Right, which they kind of probably had to throw that in because they weren't going with the... Right, they were sidestepping. If I remember correctly, Jack uses in the novel the history of the hotel as inspiration
for the novel,
for his novel that he is writing.
Again,
that they
being autobiographical,
right? And so, by sidestepping the boiler for the ending that they want,
right,
and therefore because you're not in the basement, you're not getting the newspaper articles and scrapbooks, which means then you're not having him actually write a novel.
Right. Which he's not.
Right. So, like, it becomes a domino of...
Less and less and less.
Right. Yes. Correct. I think the kid's great.
Okay.
I mean, he's young, right? Like,
Yeah.
we can't expect everybody
Right.
to be Miko Hughes.
I'm just going to say there's points where he does get irritating for me. When he's doing the Tony voice, I just like,
I guess. I mean...
I'm just saying that's for me. I'm not saying anyone else has to
Sure.
be on that train. I just feel like me experiencing it, this thing like that stuff, his reactions, everything, great. There's just certain elements that don't do it as well for me as they do for others.
Yeah. So, yeah, he's definitely off the deep end here. But there really hasn't been a lot for us to know why.
Yeah.
Except the narrative
There's not been a lot of internal struggle for the character. There's not a inner workings stuff that's eating away at him or anything. It just...
The narrative is that it's just cabin fever.
Right.
Like, this would be fun.
Yeah.
Hopefully you don't have to do too many takes of that where you have to reset it.
Yeah,
Get those little production people in there. All the 19-year-olds. You know, like, hey,
Yeah,
Billy and Bobby and Sally Sue, come in here and...
Just depends on how well the rest of the Steadicam shot goes.
Right, because this is all just one shot.
Yeah.
Although you probably could cut it at some point and keep the back end, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Unless you have a hard-on for this long of a shot.
Kubrick and everything.
Right.
Like, you got to have it exact.
So here we have our first glimpse of the hotel saying...
Welcome home.
Well, yeah, let's all go back to the ball of whatever it was. New Year's Eve. I think it was actually...
23?
In the novel, it wasn't New Year's Eve. It was something or other. It was like 4th of July.
Oh, no, this one's 4th of July.
Oh, it is? Okay,
Yeah,
then the other one was New Year's Eve. Like, it's different.
Flip-flop.
Yeah. And again, why?
That would, if they're saying in this thing that it's closed for 6 months throughout the winter,
right.
why would they be having a ball
Right.
gala in the middle of winter when it's supposed to be closed? Oh, I don't know.
Maybe it wasn't New Year's Eve. Maybe I'm making that up.
Labor Day.
Yeah, that hotbed of celebration.
Arbor Day.
Where we plant all the hedge
I don't
mazes.
even know where the fuck Arbor Day lands on the calendar, for crying out loud.
I don't remember either. I want to say August. Is Arbor Day in August?
It's nice. Got the little haze. Kind of setting the stage for another dreamlike scenario.
And the full-on...
Yeah.
And everyone's dressed like it's super old. So that would make sense that it's the 20s or 30s or whatever.
Yeah, I think it was 23, if I'm not off about it.
I never really understood those things that the ladies wore. The
Little tiara things.
The little bonnet that kind of covers their whole head.
Went out of style after the decade.
It's almost like a hat, but it's...
Didn't last in the 50s, at least.
No.
Yeah, he's so good. Turkel. He's right on the money.
Jack is so good, too.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. That's...
Uh-oh. Oh, I thought he forgot his money.
Doesn't even blink either.
No.
That nice hard stare. It's a little unsettling. He's really good.
And Jack?
Yeah, he's playing it well off of him, too.
Why would he care who's buying? Well, whatever. Doesn't matter.
Hmm.
There's the Joker right there.
Oh, yeah.
He certainly is not dressed for the
no.
the occasion.
No.
See, like that lady on the right there has that whole thing covering up her whole head.
Oh, cap.
And then the one behind her's got the
dangly kind of wrap.
The ones on the left just have the little
headband.
Tiara headband thing, yeah. But like every lady in the whole shot has some sort of headgear like that.
Yeah.
That's
all costume design. They're doing a hot job for the period dress.
I just don't recall, like, is it literally every lady like that? That's the equivalent of a man wearing a bow tie or something? You know what I mean? Like,
you'd have to have.
I don't know.
Have someone who knows about that kind of era and everything, the pre-Depression era.
This feels like a set.
Very particularly designed.
I mean, this is equally peculiar as the bathroom.
Right.
Jeevesy is so degrading. His confusion, which he can chalk up to, did I have too much to drink?
Mm-hmm.
This scene, the first time I watched it, this blew my mind. I don't know. Like, I was an impressionable young child.
Okay.
And, this is the, I don't know. Yeah, you get the scene at the beginning where Ullman's telling the story, and now he's meeting him, and I don't know. Like, I love this.
Surely.
He's so fantastic, Jack.
Yeah.
And the guy who's playing Grady is, I think he's playing this very well.
Mm-hmm.
Although I'm really put off by this bathroom. Red. Yeah, you are. Oh, what a line. You've always been the caretaker. There it is. So good. Oh, little me mind just fucking blown. Much like that. I had that face. That was my reaction. speaking of which, that that particular part of the novel, where Halloran is trying to make it back to the hotel, is a very long and drawn out
subplot.
Yeah. And that part does pour over from the novel, where, Danny is kind of using the shine to reach out.
Yeah.
And Halloran gets up there, and the roads are closed, and he's got to take the Bobcat kind of thing, I think, or change the chains on his tires, and like whole scenes where he stops at a gas station. There's it's very involved.
Chapters worth.
Right, and it's kind of set up like the hotel's working against him making it back, right? Which in itself adds another layer of intrigue to
consciousness.
Right. Do we know how old he was here?
Nicholson?
Can you pull this up? I'm
betting it's at least in his 40s. He was born in 37.
Okay, so let's say they filmed it in 79, so he would have been 42?
Roughly, yeah.
So he was a little bit younger here than you and I are now.
Yeah.
This is so creepy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I just love it. And this is what I was saying before. Like, we still have, I don't know, about
an hour left.
Yeah, no, maybe not quite, but
maybe 50 minutes.
It really starts crescendoing from here.
Sure, yeah.
And there's some iconic scenes, right? And the tension builds, and Jack is fantastic, and I do think that there is some level of false memory for people reflecting fondly when they don't people like the movie more than they think they do, or whatever, or they, you know what I mean? Like, I think that the scenes, the big iconic scenes stay with you, and you remember those. And so you're like, oh yeah, I love that movie.
I think what you're going for is like, the entire thing is like, oh, it might be a lackluster, like, first and second act, but the third act really gets you.
Right.
That's what's sick with you. But first and second act are really good, but they screw up the ending.
Right. Right. You don't like it.
Yeah.
This is one where there are moments throughout that are good, but I feel like this one's kind of a piecemeal. Yes, there are more of them at the end.
Right.
But I think this is one where it's, 5 or 6 scenes in the movie that might not just be the ending, but they're moments that those are the ones you remember and therefore reflect fondly upon the whole thing. And, this is a thing out of the novel where, the voice, Tony's voice, but, when it's in written form and it's just italicized or whatever, you hear it in your head however you want.
Yeah.
So, I can understand you thinking that it's annoying. Like, that's fine.
Yeah.
I I just give him credit because he's young.
Sure.
And
it just feels like he's trying to act outside of his range is all I kind of feel.
Sure. And I do remember scenes in the novel where he destroys the radio and the bobcat and all of the things. And meanwhile, what are we doing when we're doing this? Or I guess, what are we not doing when we're doing this is keeping track of that boiler that's in the basement, whose pressure gauge is slowly going up.
Right.
And we didn't release the steam or whatever the thing was, right? I was like, what is this map? I guess it's Colorado. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Old school fuses.
Mm-hmm.
Nice pajamas.
Sure.
Would the Forest Service really be in charge of this?
I have no idea.
I love that he's smoking a cigar, too. That always makes me happy. I think, Dick, you should just get on the plane and you better go.
There you go.
Hey, look at that. Ask and you shall receive. But because we don't want to make it a 4-hour movie, we're not going to show his trials and tribulations of actually getting to the hotel. Look at this. The era when people wore suits and ties to get on an airplane.
All polyester, too.
You gotta have a tie if you're going on an airplane. Now you're lucky if you find somebody not wearing fucking pajamas.
Got a corduroy jacket.
Kubrick loves these shots.
Oh yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. Like he likes a symmetrical wide shot.
Hell of a fireplace.
Yeah.
Tell you what, I've landed in situations like that.
It's a little slippery.
Your butthole puckers just a little bit. I guess they do show it here at the Amico or the Durkins. Amico's the next one down, but...
Yeah. Well, he calls up old Tony Burton here.
Any relation to LeVar Burton?
I don't think so. He was Rocky. He was Apollo's trainer.
Oh, right.
He was in Assault on Precinct 13 for a beat.
Why is he watching cartoons? Call is 20 cents. That's
Your
it was
calculator.
It was a dime.
I don't know if you're going to go down that far.
Oh yeah, it will.
Okay.
It will. Yeah, I can look and see. Well, yeah, we haven't. We have
$5 now.
We haven't dusted. We haven't dusted off the calc here in a little while.
Bed. 45 years of inflation.
I just don't want to know why he's watching cartoons. Is all. All right. In 1980, if I buy an item for $0.20, in 2025, that is 78 cents.
Okay, well, still under a buck.
Under a buck.
You mentioned on one of the recent other commentaries, like, after a while, just kept feeding coins in there because you don't have no idea how much it's supposed to take.
Right.
So until it starts spitting it out the other end.
That does not look good for that car.
No. Maximum overdrive happening on the other side of the road.
Right. This is... It's funny because, on one hand, this is what happens when Stephen King does not write the screenplay.
Oh, yeah.
And then Maximum Overdrive is what happens when Stephen King does write the screenplay.
And he directs the goddamn thing, too. It's like, is that Pooh Bear over there on the left?
Sure is. Along with the fire truck that he referenced earlier.
Disney. Why is there some Disney fucking conspiracy theory on this one?
I don't know. Disney isn't the one that paid Kubrick to fake the moon landing.
There's fucking Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse and Pooh Bear.
Right, and the dwarfs and all the things.
A bunch of fucking propaganda in this sucker.
Yeah. That was probably just some production person who...
just went down to
they went down
Kmart.
to the Goodwill or whatever, yeah.
Yeah.
I like this kid better than the kid that they cast in 97.
Oh, yeah, no. The other kid. He's fucking dough-faced kid.
Yeah.
He was in, like, Hellraiser Bloodline. He wasn't any good in that one. Yeah,
he had his big, poofy lips.
Looks like one of the villains from Dick Tracy.
Yeah, he was not good.
No.
So, but the screenplay on that miniseries is really good. The problem is, you don't have these types of performances.
Sure.
You don't have Jack. You don't have...
No one lives up to Jack.
No.
I mean, I watch Wings. I like Steven Weber fine.
He was fine.
He's fine.
He's fine. Was it Rebecca De Mornay?
De Mornay.
Yeah, okay. Hand that Rocks the Cradle, fucking great.
Yeah. Fucking risky business, man.
Oof.
I got the 4K from Criterion, man.
I gotta watch that again. I haven't seen that in a long time.
Well, Bronson. Pinchot's in that one, too.
Serge?
Pre-Serge. Joey Pants. Guido the Killer Pimp.
Man, yeah, I don't remember much of that movie.
This is a fine movie. Again,
Is that 83?
82, 83?
Yeah, no later than 83.
No. I always had a little story that in Dead of Night was shot down the exact same alleyway they filmed part of the car chase for the risky business in.
All right.
25 years after the fact. 25. Yeah. I think it was 83 because we shot in 08. Years go by real fast.
Real fast. Yeah, when you're of a certain age, they start going
by.
Yeah.
They'll blend into each
all
other.
Of a sudden, yeah.
Math goes out the window.
Suddenly you think that the 80s were the decade that came before the aughts, like I did a little bit ago.
Like, the 90s, they were like 20 years ago. A lot longer ago.
So this is kind of the all work and no play makes... I don't remember what the original quote is.
Was. Sure.
Not in the novel, all of this, of course. But that's a famous quote of something.
I did read that for the international version, they shot like an Italian version of the thing, and so foreign language audiences could actually read it as well.
Oh, they retyped it all?
Yeah, apparently they shot different versions with different
languages. That's pretty cool.
Up.
But I guess this is an interesting.
Yeah, they're all formatted and everything differently.
Right.
But I don't know why she has to keep flipping through 50 different pages of the same thing over and over again.
So that the audience can see.
I think we got the idea by now.
So that we can see the
30 more pages of
the formatting.
We get the idea.
You're so angry right now.
Well, it's just now you're just having the art department show off their shit. We get the idea already. She gets the idea. But she's still flipping through, getting the same message over and over again.
I feel like another
3 dozen more times.
10 seconds really isn't going to be that big of a deal.
I'm just saying, after about 5-6 pages, I get the message. I don't need to flip through the next 30 or 40 of them to get the same message drilled in.
She's still flipping.
Right. That's Ah,
There's that scrapbook that were never told about.
nada.
Who put out the fire? Like, wasn't that just a little bit ago?
Yeah.
This is one of my favorite scenes in the movie, on the stairwell.
Sure.
I think it's a favorite of many, many people. It's funny, though, like, I don't think about how long this movie is when I'm watching it.
Okay.
But when we're talking about it,
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh man, we still got to do this. We got to
20 seconds of silence here. Let's think of something.
we got to do the axe bit. We got to lock him in the freezer yet.
Yeah.
We got to
Yeah.
there's so many things
Right.
that haven't happened.
Right.
And we got Halloran. We got all of it.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, there's still 40 minutes left on this thing.
Yeah. That was half the length of the film we just watched before this, almost.
Yeah, the other one was over by now.
Yeah.
That was a surprisingly good talk on Nightmare, by the way.
Yes.
Which is our last one, the remake of Elm Street, if you're watching these out of order. Again, none of this makes any sense. It's all just a visual thing.
Yeah.
It's interesting that Danny is able to pick
Yeah.
up on this conversation and communicate with Halloran. But they're doing some very selective Danny shining.
Yeah.
Like, in theory...
It definitely feels like an ancillary element to the whole story.
Right, even despite the title.
Right, despite the title.
God damn it. This is the scene for me.
Yeah.
This is the one. And I think if this is what you remember,
Yeah.
this and the Here's Johnny or whatever,
Yeah. Sure.
then, like,
Yeah.
you're going to remember it fondly.
Yeah.
But it's not until you sit and break down frame by frame like we're doing
Right.
that some of the
Ebb and flows.
right,
Don't quite.
it becomes more glaring.
Yeah.
One of which is checking that boiler, by the way, which is about ready to blow. He could have won an Oscar for this.
Yeah.
By the way, it's also... I'm not trying to change my own opinion of this movie, but he's going on and on and on about his responsibilities to his employer.
Right. Despite the fact there's been fuck all of anything that he's been responsible for.
The actual responsibilities were not really laid out.
No. We just toured the place. Here's where you get to do this, that, and the other thing to keep yourselves busy.
Right. So it does kind of make it worse. Light of my life. Light of my life is my favorite line from the entire movie.
Trying to dig up the Academy Awards for it in 1980.
Bash them right the fuck in is my second favorite line from this entire movie.
De Niro won that year for Raging
Raging Bull, yeah.
against Robert Duvall, John Hurt, Jack Lemmon, and Peter O'Toole.
And am I correct? Is it Timothy Hutton that won the supporting for Ordinary People?
Yes.
And Sutherland wasn't even nominated. Was Mary Tyler Moore nominated?
Gina Rowlands, Mary Tyler Moore,
Okay.
yes. Goldie Hawn, Burston, Spacek winning.
Burston for Alice? Or was that earlier?
Resurrection.
Oh, I don't know that one.
Resurrection.
I like the drool. I think that's a nice little touch.
Yeah.
His head wound. The reason I asked earlier how old he was is because I was curious because he's starting to get a little gray hair there.
Oh.
And the gray little spots in the beard.
Sure.
And I have a lot of gray hair compared to him. So I was just wondering how much older I am now than he was then.
Mm.
And it was only 2.5 years, so apparently I'm not doing so well in that department.
No.
Gee, you fucking idiot. Really? Why does the chef get an office? That feels like a line or a thing they just slapped on the door.
Slap a sign on it.
That goes back to our very first commentary.
They didn't bother doing that in the remake of Elm Street. They didn't slap no signs on shit.
No, that came up in our very first commentary. Nightmare on Elm Street, 1984. We covered it almost 9 years ago, and there's a great scene that says, like, no students allowed or something, and they just slapped it on a closet door. And now we look for it everywhere we go. Final processing, Halloween 3. What are they, Frost and Flakes they had out? This is a pretty iconic shot, the upside down shot.
Sure.
At least he's got food in there. It's not like...
Yeah. It's all dry food.
Well,
Sure.
he doesn't have a can opener, I guess. Yeah, that's true. And nothing came with the pre-opened, like no tab, pull tab.
Oh, not yet. No, you're decades away from that.
Yeah. Jack is this movie.
Yeah.
And I think, the decision to make it a Jack movie instead of a Danny/evil hotel movie.
Yeah.
Makes, Nicholson stand out. And Nicholson being brilliant,
Yeah.
I think also aids in everybody remembering this movie fondly.
Yeah. I mean, with King's approach, he was like definitely thinking a completely different type of casting, much more of an everyman. Like one of the names he kind of threw out, or at least one of the names that's documented, is like Christopher Reeve, and I like Reeve, but he always had the problem of trying to break out of the Superman pigeonhole thing, and he always kind of struggled with that. And I don't think Reeve would have melded with Kubrick at all. I mean, Reeve didn't even like Marlon Brando, because Brando showed up on set not knowing any of his lines.
Well, sure, Brando was drunk, Brando was...
Right.
All the things, right?
And,
Brando big shot at everybody and was too good for everybody.
Right. I feel like Reeve just coming off of working with Richard Donner is like one of the most affable guys in the business. Coming up with...
Oh, from Superman?
Yeah, and just talking like going up with Kubrick, and he's just such a entirely different animal in that regard. I don't know how well that personality would have worked if there was even a pie in the sky idea of happening.
Michael Douglas would have been actually not too bad.
Yeah.
I know he was a little young at this.
Maybe, yeah.
I was just thinking about him.
He was
considering...
kind of in his producer phase at this point.
Right,
in time,
yeah, he hadn't quite crossed over completely.
He just finished Streets of San Francisco and trying to more shepherd projects instead of starting in probably not until kind of like Romancing the Stone he really starts getting into a groove of being a leading man movie star.
Yeah. And then he took off.
Yeah.
That knife looks really fake.
Not quite much sheen on it now.
Like it just looks like a plastic,
rubbery.
Yeah, like cosplay.
Yeah, the stunt safe knife.
I've also lost track of when and where, what day, because they switched from
Days to now hours.
Months to days to hours.
Right.
But I don't remember the hour that we were at last time. I don't remember what day we're in.
Last time I saw was 8 a.m. when we had Halloran on the flight, but then I don't know what we've seen since in the last 8 hours.
Well, I guess nothing. He's taking a nap and...
I guess Halloran's been on...
Well, he landed.
He landed, then he called up Tony Burton, and then he's on the road, and... I don't know.
Well, now it's 4 p.m., and he's been eating peanut butter and Planters and Oreos.
Well, that...
And asparagus. Oh, no, he isn't eating that. That's his lid.
And say...
That square box, that little tin, though.
Oreos. I mean, that's...
Sardines? What's in that little red tin?
A couple hours eating Oreos, now he just needs an Atari or something.
Well...
Keep him company.
He's going to need a bathroom. What are you going to need?
Need a little...
It's 8 hours. He just woke up from his nap.
At least it's all dry foods. It's going to suck down the juice in the frickin' pickle bottle. Gorge on some fucking gherkin.
I'm just wondering where he can take a piss. Like,
well, you're gonna have to empty the frickin' gherkin bottle.
Maybe dump a Calumet baking powder or a Country Time lemonade, Nilla Wave Kool-Aid, Tang, Sanka.
Sanka. There you go.
Nobody wants Sanka anyway. It's
eat up the ground.
Well, just dump them on the floor,
on the ground.
And then you have a pot to piss in. Just no window to throw it out of.
Steve Frazier's zombie survival guide here.
Just saying.
Get some Nilla wafers.
God, I had a box of Nilla wafers last week.
You guys, the Kool-Aid powder, man. I mean, it's no good.
You're so worried about what he's
stirred into the pickle juice.
Well, or the piss.
Jesus,
cherry piss.
We're talking over like major plot elements here.
Who needs a whole box of pimentos?
Hotel of this fucking size. It probably has like 500 guests at one time.
Yeah, but what do you do with pimento pieces? Golden Ray. What do you...
Chinese egg noodle.
But that's at least
sliced peaches.
Well, I love peaches.
Eat a peach for hours.
I mean, those olives look tasty. I'm just saying, I'm worried about
If you're going to move the camera, we're just going to look at the production design, for fuck's sake.
Where he can go to the bathroom is all I'm worried about. I say...
There's got to be a drain somewhere.
You dump the Sanka in a corner and you use the can to piss in.
You need something with a fucking lid on it.
Actually, none of those things have pull tabs. You need can opener. Maybe not the Country Time lemonade. I don't know about that.
So I'm saying the pickle jar.
Right, yeah, all right. But I don't know where you dump it. If there's a sink, you just piss in the sink. What have we become?
God. You gorge on the pickles is like Coolant who Luke with all the hard-boiled eggs. You just get the stomach out to here.
Sure.
You probably puke them up at some point.
Yeah, it makes room for more food.
Anorectic
but yeah, bulimia 101.
Bulimic torrents. Oh. Got long in the tooth on this one.
Little bit. That's fine.
A little punchy.
It's fine. It's all good.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, I know. You don't like the voice. It's fine. It's fine.
Well, that too.
I can't imagine she would just, like, fall asleep.
With all this.
Right.
Fucking adrenaline pumping, psychotic chaos happening.
Right. Like, why would you not try to escape? I mean, I know she did. She went to the Bobcat or the Snowcat, and it was not functional.
Right, but now it's like, okay, just...
So what? Let me smoke a cigarette and go to bed?
Kind of just pass out in a chair somewhere.
Right. She made a conscious decision to smoke a cigarette and go to bed.
Right.
With a knife.
Right.
You're right. A chair would have been great.
Yeah.
Here's a little musical stinger in there.
Yeah.
2 hours later.
Yeah, it is a sparse score in that regard. I didn't check who ran that. Wendy Carlos and Rachel Elkind. Not familiar at all.
This is a pretty famous handwriting sample, right?
Sure.
Rum. I like rum. This is obviously very overproduced, you know, sped up, whatever. That blew my mind too when I was a kid, by the way. And here's the axe. I didn't mention it at the beginning.
Sure.
I forgot. Or I meant to and didn't. Did you notice in the interview?
Sure.
In Ullman's Ullman's desk, there is a pen that is in the shape of an axe.
I did not notice that.
I had to have it pointed out to me at some point in my life, but now I notice it. And I was going to mention it, and I forgot. This is... The one in the bathroom is probably the most famous line in the whole movie, right?
Yeah.
That looks scary. Trying to go through the... Like, I'd want to go head first like that. I also don't buy that she can't fit through there.
I'm a little pressed on that. I mean, she's
88 pounds soaking wet.
Like a year after this, she's playing Olive Oil for Robin Williams and Popeye. I mean,
I thought that was before this.
Robert Altman, I don't know, somewhere in this range.
I thought Olive Oil was first and then this.
One way or another, it's within a year or two gap, one way or the other. Just take off the robe; you'll slip through just fine. Want to keep the robe? Just shove the robe out first, then go through.
Right.
I mean, yeah, like you said, she weighs about maybe 100 pounds soaking wet.
Other than the beard, he does look the same amount of crazy as the beginning.
Yeah.
That snowdrift is pretty intense.
Yeah.
That knife looks more
proper.
Yeah.
Buffed it up a little bit.
I don't know whether that Little Pig was in the novel, but that is 100% the kind of thing that Stephen King would write into it.
Yeah.
He loves that kind of thing.
Recontextualization, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this is her shining moment.
Yeah.
This is the movie right here.
Right.
This is the iconic everything. And the Carson line.
Right. Now, I was gonna say, like, I don't know how many people, like, young audiences would even understand what the reference is now. Johnny's been out of pop culture for 30 years now.
Right.
30 plus years.
90,
Anyone born
92,
in the last 20
I think.
years.
I think 92 was his final show.
Anyone born maybe last 20 years.
They don't understand
they don't
how
get no Carson.
culturally relevant Johnny
Right.
Carson was.
Yeah, Carson. Words can't do Johnny justice, really.
No.
In terms of his magnitude.
I don't know which is greater, the number of years he hosted The Tonight Show or the number of times he was married.
Well,
I think I do know he hosted The Tonight Show for 30 years, and I think he was married 10 times.
hey.
I think. Don't quote me on that, but the man had a lot of wives.
After Hours, man, it's a whole different story.
That's right. Johnny Carson is a hero, not because of that, but just a comedian hero.
Yeah, just the careers he made happen is immeasurable.
His career, everyone else's career, because of his career.
Yes.
I was like, why is he covered in powder? It's snow.
Yeah.
Duh.
Yeah.
And here's where they ripped off the idea back in Jurassic Park.
Oh, yeah. It's like I was watching this interview that Johnny was doing with Orson Welles. Like, man, so charming. Well, both of them. Like, so person was like, not everyone in Hollywood liked Orson Welles that much. He was kind of not appreciated as much in his time, but he sat there with Johnny, and Johnny just gave him all the undivided care and attention.
I was a huge fan of the Karnak, the Magnificent.
Oh, surely.
The guy, the Slauson cutoff, get off and cut off your Slauson, whatever that skit was. If anyone has made it this far and is interested in Carson, please go look up the the time when Dom DeLuise and Burt Reynolds
Oh my God.
were on The Tonight Show throwing, was it pies or is it squirting water? I don't know. I think it's
Those
pies.
two were
Yeah,
a hell of an act.
whipped cream. There's whipped cream involved. It is a fucking delight.
Yeah, there's an official Carson YouTube channel out there. So go hit it up, folks.
When I was around the time that I was reading this novel and watching this movie regularly for the first time in the mid 90s.
Sure.
Now, I'm like 16 years old, right?
Yeah.
I probably shouldn't care about Johnny Carson as much as I do.
Yeah.
But I fucking loved Johnny Carson even at 16.
Yeah.
And it would be the equivalent of a today's 16-year-old loving Jay Leno. Like, as far as like a timeline.
Yeah.
And you're like, why? How do you even know what that is?
Surely.
So I got the VHS tapes that were like the best of the Carson show.
Oh, yeah. Like Time Life or something.
Yeah, I forget who put it out, but there was like a 3-tape set.
Yeah.
And god damn it, did I just laugh and laugh and laugh. And I still laugh. It's like the Three Stooges. Like, it's just timeless.
Oh, sure.
And it's funny every time.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I suppose we're getting to the point here where
Cock block.
where things are really starting to diverge from the novel.
Yeah, in about 5 seconds here, yeah. Yeah.
And he takes an axe right to the heart.
All that for nothing.
And if you're wondering, gee, that seems like a waste. Well,
yeah.
because it is. And because Dick Halloran lives in the novel.
Yes. Yes, he does.
He does not look like that.
I mean, another one of these things. Like
we haven't even shown any of the hallucinations, right? Like in the hotel.
We haven't gotten much of any of that in like the last half hour or so, if not longer. Most we got was him talking with Grady from the other side of the door.
Her little trot here is so fucking annoying.
Yeah.
Is this where she starts seeing things in the weird rooms?
Yes.
Okay. So,
which again, along with the Grady thing, okay, somehow he has to get out of the thing, so the only thing you can conjecture is that supernatural force lets him out of the entire room.
Oh, right.
Because he's talking with, this shit here too.
Right, where...
Which is fuck all context for anything.
So, stuff like that is in the novel.
Yeah.
But it's under the guise of, like, the hotel coming back to life and showing you historical events.
Yeah. Which we haven't alluded to one bit.
Right. I want to say there's one where somebody had previously, like, committed suicide in a room or something,
Sure.
and that comes into play. That whole scene there with the bear giving a blowjob is like such a Kubrick, like, shock jock kind of maneuver.
Oh.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's because there's no context.
Yeah, that's my problem.
So
I can make a film where I just throw any old thing on screen without any context. Anyone can do that.
right.
Have a purpose for it. Have something that integrates into why it's happening.
Right, so...
And we're getting in that further blurred lines, like, is it supernatural, or is it everyone's now losing their minds?
Right, it doesn't make sense that Danny and Wendy are also hallucinating.
Right.
Unless the whole thing is supposed to be summed up by cabin fever again.
Right.
Which, that's real thin.
Right. That's the problem. It's thin concept. And it doesn't feel like the film is really taking a stance on exactly which way it wants to land on the entire idea.
Now, Danny, being a much bigger character in the original novel, the source material, uses all of his shine to get all of the evil forces, kind of converge together, right? And then he and Wendy get out of the hotel.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what? That boiler that he's supposed to have been tending this whole time, the heartbeat, is at a fever pitch.
Right.
That sucker goes off.
Yeah.
Takes the hotel and Jack with him.
Yeah.
Gone.
Yeah.
That's how the book ends.
Everything is swallowed up in flames.
Right. Wendy and Dick Halloran and Danny escape on the Tomcat.
Right.
So here, is the first time that we're, like, kind of confirmed that the hotel is showing itself to everybody.
Yeah.
But there should have been way more. I agree with you.
Right. Elaborating on the whole thing is like, okay, one kind of having most of the things stepped into the psychological end, but kind of like, okay, we're still going to play with the other end of the entire thing without really setting it up terribly well, exploring more of why it's happening, because we don't really get any reason why it's happening. Only thing we got was the entire thing of Grady chopping up and the family and everything like that. We have no context for any of the other stuff happening. Like you said, since they cut out all the stuff about him finding the history of the place and expanding upon all the little lore and everything, there's not much of that here. To really give the whole thing of the ballroom stuff and the bear thing and all the other little things, all the other things that are just kind of popping up all over the place. It's like you took imagery you saw from the book, but you took out
the story that goes with it.
Story that gave it some kind of meaning in the story. And with the psychological elements, you didn't spend as much time to set it up to show a great deterioration of the character, to have it mean as much to see him go crazy, because there's not as much a contrast to see him when he's not that kind of person.
Right.
It's
troublesome.
Yeah.
I'll give you that. Now, is this really happening? I don't know.
I don't know.
And like all the other times that Danny envisioned it, was that like a foreshadowing?
Foreshadowing of her vision?
Right.
It said foreshadowing something that's actually happening?
Right. It's very loosey-goosey on the rules.
Right, that's my thing.
And I really do believe that everyone looks so fondly at Jack that they forgive the trespasses of Kubrick's overall vision.
Yeah.
Except for Stephen King, who said,
right,
yeah, Jack is great, but you fucked with my story.
Yeah.
And he's never said that about anything other than The Lawnmower Man.
No. Because they just
they took the title.
Lawnmower Man's basically nothing.
Right, they took the title.
That's about it.
Yeah, so basically he sued them for using his title.
Using his name with the title.
Right.
Like, it's not based on my shit. Get the fuck out of here.
And he won that.
Oh, yeah. He gets the name removed from all the marketing materials.
Right, so now it's just The Lawnmower Man.
Yeah.
I think that Jack, let me amend my previous statement, the fondness for Jack and the fondness for some of the visual stylings.
Surely.
There are some great visuals.
I mean, this whole sequence does look fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is where I feel like the wide-angle lens and the Steadicam really aid the film overall.
Like, this is a fantastic, scary shot.
Yeah, the underlighting.
Right.
I mean, look how much it makes the whole maze look
so big,
massive next to the kid. Yeah.
Right, because because in both shots they're at Danny's eye level.
Yeah.
Which makes Jack more imposing and the hedges more than that.
Yeah.
Like, we can't see the top.
No.
Now, was it Ullman who said you're going to need a trail of breadcrumbs to get out of it?
Yeah.
I feel like they squandered an opportunity to have him use some sort of trail of breadcrumbs to get back out. Because how is a 5-year-old going to remember?
Right, because he's just running around wildly. He's not really making much of a...
I guess he was following his footsteps, his tracks.
A little bit. It was a smart thing in terms of the photography, because most of the stuff from Jack is from behind. So you're not getting the footsteps of the cameraman.
Right.
Because you're trailing behind him.
Right.
While you're doing it on Danny, you just have the camera angled enough where you're just kind of
you don't see his
chin.
feet. Right. You don't.
So you're not seeing the forefront of the snow with the cameraman's footprint. So smart work on that regard.
He has an axe. He could literally just chop down the hedges.
That's a possibility.
Just saying.
Yeah.
But he's also completely lost his mind.
Oh, yeah.
And we have had basically zero in 2.5 hours, other than one scene, we've had zero dialogue about alcoholism.
Oh, yeah. Zippo.
And that was such a factor in Jack's character.
Yeah. And that was something that they even said at the beginning of the whole thing when Shelley, Wendy's talking with the doctor and everything. There's a little bit of that in terms of like when he struck Danny and everything like that, but he's been clean for like 5 months or something like that.
Right.
And it only comes back around when he has the hallucination with Turkel in the bar, and it just zaps away. So I can definitely see King like.
And there's a very iconic shot.
Yeah, I find the upward cross eyes thing looks a little goofy to me.
Doesn't bother me.
No, I just.
I think it kind of just it shows off the craziness.
Maybe.
You know.
Just,
Like, that's where he was looking when he finally succumbed to the cold, you know? I don't know. And then this really brings it home with that, you've always been the caretaker, I've always been here, whatever.
1921.
They did I don't know if it's recently, but they have uncovered this actual, like, source photo.
Okay, that would go for a mountain of money.
And shown, like, whoever the person is, where they just photoshopped, or there was no Photoshop then, but they cut and pasted Jack's head onto the...
Okay.
Whoever was in that spot.
So they had to stand in instead and not Jack himself in the photo?
No, this is an actual photo.
Okay.
From Europe somewhere in London.
Oh, I'm saying that Jack wasn't actually photographed in the photo.
Correct.
Okay.
They found this photo.
The original.
The original photo, and then, or they had this photo, and then they cut and pasted Jack's head into it so that...
Interesting.
So that it looked like he was in the photo.
Okay, interesting.
And it wasn't until fairly recently that folks have uncovered the original source photo.
Okay.
Because I'm sure it was just some random big ballroom. I don't know. When you and I went to dinner earlier, there were 3 of those photos behind you on the wall.
Yeah.
So it was like, oh. Lisa and Louise Burns, the Grady twins. That guy did a good job, the photographer. Yeah. Photographed by.
Yeah.
Music by, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if those folks deserve a lot of credit for this. A lot of foreigners here. No, Twitty. Sure. So this lives on in the pantheon of, like, greatest Stephen King movies, and I enjoy it.
Surely.
I don't think it's a good adaptation.
No.
By any means.
No.
You know, when there are ones out there like The Green Mile,
Surely.
And, you know, Shawshank and Stand By Me and
Dead Zone and
That Zone's pretty good. Dolores Claiborne is fantastic. Misery's a great adaptation. Pet Cemetery, which he wrote. There are some out there that are really, really well translated.
Yeah.
And they might have changed some things here and there, but the motivation of the characters, which then drives the whole story, is still intact in some way, where it's not here. So we get a little bit something different in this version, which I appreciate, and I appreciate Jack. So I like it. I understand why you don't, though.
Yeah,
and I'm not even. I don't even challenge, like.
I feel I'm kind of advocating a bit for the King end of the conversation on this whole thing.
Sure.
So,
and I appreciate both, with the understanding that clearly the novel is a superior. And I'm not just saying that because books are always better. The novel is a superior work.
Surely. Okay.
And I've always thought that. I can kind of take this for what it is.
Okay.
So,
So, well, we invite everyone's comments about the entire thing and our discussions about it. So, thanks for joining us.
We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.